Please subscribe to our channel if you like us. UFC Fight Night, Walker versus Zhang. Ortega versus Sterling almost didn't happen, but it did. Any fights on the undercard? I only saw Cohen Main.
Yeah, so I didn't get up to watch these because they were on at like 3 o'clock in the morning. But last week I did highlight Michelle Pereira versus Kyle Dawkins. Kyle Dawkins knocked him out with his hands, which was not what I anticipated, but great fight nonetheless. Round 1 KO for Dawkins. And then Lonier Kavanaugh versus Charles Johnson. I highlighted that one as well. Another great knockout. Charles Johnson, round 2 knockout. He said afterwards that his bank account was in the red. You know, he fights like 5 times a year, so that just is a bad look for the UFC, obviously, or he's very bad with his money, or he's got a lot of kids or something, or a new house or something. I don't know. He shouldn't be in the red either way, but he got a bonus, so hopefully that helps him out. But yeah, let's get to this main card. We'll talk about just the Sergey Pavlovich versus Waldo Cortez Acosta. Nobody went to sleep. It was a bummer. Yeah, Sergey won a decision, but he's lost like all that aura he had before he fought Tom Aspinall, and it's very sad. So we don't even need to go into it anymore. We can just move on. So let's talk about Brian Ortega, Aljamain Sterling.
Okay, let's talk about how I ended up remembering this was on super early in the morning, and I was working early in the morning, and then I think it was you or one of our other friends in our group chat talking about how washed Ortega was, and I'm like, oh. Quickly remember, download ESPN to my phone, started watching it. Thought it was in round 3. I didn't know it was a 5-round fight. I was in the last.
Me either.
Yeah, and Ortega, funny though, when I came in there though, around 5, Ortega starts taking some chances. Ortega had, a few brief moments there where it looked like he was trying to do some stuff. And I was like, oh, maybe he's going to turn this around. But no, Sterling gets him down. And then Ortega starts trying to, it's always a bad idea to see guys trying to strike from the bottom generally. There are rare exceptions. And this was interesting because he was getting some good shots off on Sterling, but it was really reckless. And I thought maybe he's trying to create the triangle choke. But Sterling, kind of what we thought about at this stage in the game. He had enough wrestling to kind of avoid the submission attempts, and his striking was better from what I saw. Now, you saw the majority of the fight, and it sounded like Ortega looked pretty bad in the beginning of this.
Yeah, well, first of all, it was at a catch weight because Brian couldn't make weight. It was at a 153 catch weight, so that was not good. I mean, clearly he shouldn't be cutting down to featherweight anymore. He should be at lightweight anyway. He should get one shot at lightweight, and if he loses again, he should call it quits because he just, I know he had a bad weight cut and that can affect a lot, but he just doesn't look the same anymore to what he used to. And in every single fight, he just takes so much damage, which being real tough is great during your career, but afterwards it affects the rest of your life. So, I just don't want to see it anymore, to be honest with you. So the fight was kind of stupid. Aljo stuck and moved. He got on top once in a while, but there was really not a lot of grappling. Ortega didn't try to take him down at all. Yeah, so it's a bummer. Good job for Aljo. He called for a title shot, which I don't know if he's going to get that, but he has been around long enough that you could give it to him.
You could. I don't think this just because of, there's some other fighters out there with a little more momentum. I think, if Jean Silva ends up beating Diego, he could end up getting a shot. What's his name? Just beat Aaron Pico last week there. Leon.
Oh, Lerone Murphy.
Lerone Murphy.
Yeah, he's probably next in line.
Yeah, he's probably next. I would say, Silva, if he finishes Lopez, could cut that line too. I guess if that's a boring fight, you could talk about it. I think Sterling's looking at maybe a Yair Rodriguez or an Arnold Allen next. I think those would be 2 good fights for him.
Both very fun fights, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know if I favor Aljo in either one of those, but
no, I don't either.
He just finds a way to win. So we'll see.
Yeah. Get that title shot and, see if you can just pull it off. But, yeah, there's some dangerous opponents there potentially either way for him. But I think it's going to have to be that way probably.
Yep. All right, let's talk about this main event, which obviously did not go the way that we anticipated here. Johnny Walker versus Zhang Mingyang.
Walker said there's levels to this game, and unfortunately for Zhang, there is. And Walker was above him. And Zhang came out so wild, aggressive, ready to put on him. And it was just funny because I thought, well, Walker's probably going to get connected to one of these because that's just what usually happens. And he's a little bit reckless. But Walker kept being evasive. And I'm watching this, for I was like, he could tire him out. I'm like, hey, what's the odds? I think what's the odds? He's going to damper it. I'm thinking and then sure enough, and then we got to round 2. He rocked him. And you could tell Zhang did not look like he had ever been in that position before, too. You know, he was covering up, but not in a way that looked, you know, he looked like he was in trouble. He looked, it looked bad. And in the end, Walker, you know, spoils that main event for everybody and gets the big win. And hey, good for him. I was looking at his record, man. He's kind of fought everybody, though. It's kind of like, you know, the guy I would have him fight next is a little bit behind him, so I don't think he'd want to do it, but it probably makes the most sense. Would be like Alonzo Menafield next. I think that would be a fun fight.
That'd be fun. Yeah.
And he can get a big win off of him. Then you're looking at maybe some rematches and getting yourself in the picture, but see what happens.
So Walker sent all the Chinese fans home sad, obviously. You know, I noticed in that first round the leg kicks were bothering Zhang. And when Johnny landed that last one in round 2, he knew it was over. He just jumped all over him, rushed him. So, you know, I was very happy for Johnny because I thought for sure that he was going to get brutally KO'd in the first round. But, you know, he always has that power, and he's moved his camp again. You know, he was at SBG for a long time, and now he's moved to Extreme Couture or something, I think. He's moved to Sean Strickland's camp, basically, in Vegas, and with Eric Nixick. Yeah. So, you know, could be a whole new life for him. You know, he looked like old Johnny Walker, where he was kind of reckless and he threw a lot of crazy stuff, but a little bit more reserved, where he was conserving a little bit of energy and he had some good head movement. He didn't take any real big shots from Zhang. So yeah, good on Johnny Walker. I'm sure Zhang will be back and knock the next guy out in the first round, though.
Oh yeah, he's a killer.